What is reverse racism and how does it relate to racial equality? Have you ever heard the term reverse racism and wondered what it really means? Many people use this phrase to describe the idea that members of historically dominant racial groups, often white individuals, face discrimination from minority or historically oppressed groups. This concept frequently comes up in discussions about affirmative action, diversity initiatives, and policies aimed at correcting past racial injustices. Those who support the idea of reverse racism argue that these policies unfairly disadvantage the majority group, claiming that it discriminates in reverse. From a liberal viewpoint, which values racial equality and individual rights, the idea of reverse racism raises some concerns. Liberalism teaches that racism is not just about individual prejudice. It is deeply tied to systemic power and historical context. Racism includes both prejudice and the power to enforce that prejudice in ways that maintain social, economic, and political dominance. Since historically dominant groups hold systemic power, the argument follows that only they can enact racism in a meaningful way. Thus, what some refer to as reverse racism is better understood as discrimination or bias, but not racism in the systemic sense. Liberal values highlight the importance of addressing racial inequality through policies like affirmative action. These measures aim to correct imbalances created by centuries of discrimination and exclusion. They are not about disadvantaging any group but about creating fair opportunities for everyone. The claim of reverse racism often overlooks the larger context of racial power dynamics and the ongoing effects of systemic racism on marginalized communities. In practice, liberalism encourages tolerance and equality by supporting initiatives that break down barriers to racial equality. Instead of viewing these efforts as unfair attacks on majority groups, the goal is to create a society where race does not determine one's opportunities or treatment. Achieving this requires acknowledging and addressing historical and structural inequalities, rather than assuming that racism exists equally between groups. Reverse racism is a debated concept that liberalism critiques because it misrepresents the nature of racism. It distracts from the efforts to achieve true racial equality. Instead of focusing on perceived discrimination against dominant groups, liberalism emphasizes dismantling systemic racism and promoting policies that support equal rights and opportunities for all racial groups. Understanding this perspective can help clarify the ongoing conversation about racial equality and the role of liberal values in shaping a more just society.